Welcome to the second episode of the Elisabeth Revue Corner series. Today we will be talking about the 1996-97 stock troupe production of Elisabeth, starring Asaji Saki as Death and Shiraki Ayaka as Elisabeth. With you today are Lela, Elin and Jen. Hello, lovely ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
First off, before we go into the characters and our favourite scenes, I thought we might talk about our general impressions of the show. Jen, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so this is one of my very favorite Elisabeths. I am a huge Mariko, or Asaji Saki fan, and this particular time period in Hoshigumi is like a big favorite of mine, so I'm really excited to be on this episode. But just some background, because I know a lot of people are not the biggest Mariko fans, especially in this show. She's not really a singer. And Elisabeth is very much vocal show, but Mariko is an amazing dancer. If you've ever seen her pair dances, like her lifts are unbelievable. And I think she's a really good actress as well, so give her a chance if this is the only show you've seen. But anyway, at this time, this show was late 1996, early 1997. And in the earlier show, you heard about the Snow Troop version earlier in 96. So this was the second version that Takarazuka did. And Asaji Saki had been top star for about 3 years. She was super popular actress. She actually had like 7 Shinko leads. So, and her partner at the time this was actually her last show. She retired with it, kind of starting that tradition, I guess, of retirements. And the super cute Tsukikage Hitomi, who plays young Rudolph in this show, actually became Asaji Saki's partner for only one show after this. And then they moved her to Yukigumi because Todoroki Yu, who was top star in Yukigumi, was paired up with Hanafusa Mari, and that was like a disastrous pair. So they moved Hanafusa Mari over to the new Soragumi, and they moved Tsukikage Hitomi over to Snow Troop to be with Todoroki Yu. And so, yeah, always interesting things going on in Takarazuka. So anyway, overall impressions of this show, and then I'll shut up. I feel like for me, this is my favorite show acting-wise. And I'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about the different characters. But I feel like Hoshigumi has always been known as the costume play troupe, meaning they tend to get a lot of the shows that are historical ones with wacky costumes. And they're also known as a very energetic troupe, which Koike talks about in some interviews at the time. And I think you can really see that here. Like the company numbers are big. There's a lot of young energy going on. And yeah, and Shiraki Ayaka is actually one of my favorite Elisabeths, so...
Oh, mine too.
Well, that's a good point to pass it on to Layla then.
My god, Shiraki Ayaka's Elisabeth is so good. And I know what I'm going to say right now might seem a bit strange since the show is called Elisabeth, but I don't usually care much for Elisabeth as a character, and I think it is because I don't understand the choices she makes. They are the complete opposite of the choices that I myself would make in that situation, and so to me she comes off as an incredibly selfish, unlikable character. And it's strange because I really like Sophie, who is supposed to be the baddie. But anyway, I have not been keen on Elisabeth, the character, in any production of Elisabeth that I've seen until this one. And it's all due to Shiraki Ayaka. I understand her emotionally, I understand her emotional motivation, and why she tries to solve her problems the way she does. And that makes me like the character, whereas in other versions I feel completely disconnected from her. But I'll get more into that later, more specific details about why Ayaka's Elisabeth is so great. And I have a lot of flailing to do. But my general impressions of the show, aside from the perfection of Elisabeth, is that I am having an easier time with my listening comprehension in this production. It almost seems as though they sing at a slower pace than later productions, even though I don't think that they do. It might be that I've watched Elisabeth a lot of times, but I think that this might actually be a really good production to watch if you've been studying Japanese for a while and want to work on your listening comprehension, because they speak clearly and the acting is stellar.
I wonder if that's because it was still so new that they weren't like learning it by ear so much as they were actually learning it as a script, as a new show. Because I know that they were talking about in the rehearsals, they spent most of the time doing the singing parts, and they only did the choreography in like the last couple of weeks. So I imagine they spent a lot of time on it. I don't know.
Oh, that could be it. What do you think, Elin?
Well, I disagree a bit. I'm sorry. No, I think it's a nice production, and I like it. Well, you, Jen, pointed out as well, like the singing in this show is maybe not the strongest. This is like, as for singing, this is not the best production in my book, at least. And it has other qualities, though, other things I like. But I sometimes feel that I lack a bit of intensity, if that makes sense. I don't know, I don't get this intense like feels that I get from other productions. And I think that might probably be partly because of the not so super strong singing. But sometimes I feel it's also the acting. I feel it's a bit stiff at times and not supernatural. But yeah, overall I do enjoy it. I think it's nice. And I also like Takarazuka as Elisabeth. I think she's great. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, let's start on the characters. In this production, Death is played by Asaji Saki, and she is a fantastic, super goldy blonde, and as you said, Elin, her voice is interesting, but she has a hoarse quality to it, which I find super cool. She has great enunciation, and somehow she reminds me of Cher. I had to have a Cher break in the middle of everything, just a nice little interlude there where I listened to my Cher albums. But I think she is a really great Death. She has a fantastic, petulant death glare, and it's the best thing. And she has a lot of presence. I know that a lot of people will be put off by her singing not being stellar, but she does have a lot of other qualities which make her Death very appealing. Also, this is the first production when they use what I call the Death pose. It's in the last scene of the first act when Franz Josef and Elisabeth are singing to each other, and Death is sitting on the stage with one leg bent and the other one straight out, and to me it's a very significant and striking pose. It's also very, to me this is a quintessential Elisabeth pose, and I really enjoy it in every performance that I've seen it happen in.
It is an important pose.
And you can see Mariko's Death in the later productions. If you watch the first Elisabeth, the Yukigumi 96, and compare it to this one, you will see that there are many little details which seem typically Zukabeth, which originated in this performance, and I really enjoy that. Now I feel as though Mariko Death lives on. And just, Mariko's petulant death glare is the best thing, okay? Right, I shall say no more. What about you, Jen?
So, I have to just say, like I mentioned earlier, Mariko's like one of my favorites. And we're recording this on the 29th of July, and I was just in New York City, and I got to talk to Mariko, and got her signature, and it was amazing. So like I never thought I'd see her because she retired and moved to Brazil and had kids, and yeah, anyway, so like even though I'm not the biggest Elisabeth fan now, like I was dead on Elisabeth in 2007, and then Tsukigumi did it in 2009, and I became one of those little old ladies. Like, I bought all these tickets to support Masaki because she was Luigi Lucchini, and then I went into the theater and I would fall asleep through most of the show, and then I'd wake up for the Lucchini scenes, and I was like, I remember when I was a new fan and I saw the old ladies doing that, and I was like, how disrespectful, how could you? And then, like, the 23rd time I was seeing it, I was just, like, out. And you got so good, you'd pick up the music cues and wake up at the right moments. It was, yeah. So anyway, I'm really burnt out on Elisabeth, but I put this in and I was just like, oh, it's Monika! And I got really excited again, so that was fun. But, so, like, Layla, did you say she was golden blonde?
Yeah.
'Cause her wig is green.
Really?
It's green.
What?
Yes.
I'm thinking like neon colored
You have
almost.
to look
like
at it under
glowing.
the right lights, but it's this really pale, washed out, fuzzy
Oh my
green
God.
color. It's possibly the worst. Yeah. Because the first time I saw it, I had like a 4th generation VHS copy that I was watching, and I thought it was blonde too. And then I got like a newer Sky Stage copy, and I was like, oh my God, it's green! Like, my world just changed in that moment. Yes, it's like different shades of really subtle, like lime green. It's really horrific. And then I think she's the only death that really does that, like caked on white makeup.
Oh, yeah.
Like I don't think Ichiro Maki did that, and I don't think anybody after that really did it the way that she did. Like, it was very white. It was a very interesting choice, because usually the otokoyaku go for the darker makeup, and it's the musumeyaku who go for the white Western beauty kind of look. I guess this was her death look, but yeah. But anyway, it's kind of funny. So the first time I saw this show was, I was looking on my blog because I couldn't remember. It was February of 2006. So, and so I was like looking to see what I wrote back then. And it's like, so 10 years ago, I was a much younger person. And back then I loved death. And I loved all the scenes with like with Rudolph, you know, like all the kind of slashy stuff. And then like now I'm getting older and my favorite scenes are like Franz Joseph and Elisabeth together. And I'm like, oh, I've become that old person. But anyway, so like it was really interesting to go back and watch it again. But like some of my initial impressions, like I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, oh my God, this death is so in love with Elisabeth. Especially like that final scene when they're going up the lift together, and like Mariko goes to grab Elisabeth, like to hug her, and like Mariko's hands are shaking. That's how she does that. And it's just like, oh. So, like, I went back and I happened to have the Kageki magazine where they did, like, a roundtable interview with all the casts. Well, it was, like, during rehearsal time. And Mariko's, like, saying how, yeah, she wanted to give, like, an immense presence just walking on stage. Because she felt like when she went and saw it in Europe, she's like, that's the impression that she got. Like, as soon as Death walked on stage, the atmosphere in the theater changed. So she wanted to do that. But, like, her big thing was that even though Death is not human, like, his love for a human made him more human. And I thought, that's so cool, because that's exactly what I got out of it when I first watched it. And like going back and watching it again now, I was just like, oh my God, it is. Like, I feel like her death is the most human in some ways and the least angry, the most like almost more like pining about it. And like Mariko even talks about that last scene where they're like get together after Elisabeth dies, and she's like, when Elisabeth dies, Elisabeth finally loves Death. And that's really moving because Death finally gets someone who loves them. And I was just like, oh my God, yes, exactly. It's so cool to like hear their motivations. So that's my Mariko death.
I totally agree with you that Mariko's death really loves Elisabeth, but at the same time, he also seems to be a bit confused by his own emotions. Like in the scene when Elisabeth has given Franz Josef an ultimatum when he is standing outside her door, and after she has sent him off, Death enters and they have an interaction which ends with Elisabeth essentially kicking him out. And Death seems so confused about what just happened, as though he's thinking, but what did I do wrong? Right. And then we get Mariko's petulant death glare, which, as we have established, is the best thing. But he honestly seems confused and a little bit at a loss. But it's not just that Death loves Elisabeth a lot in this production. It's that Elisabeth loves death so much. And I think you can see that in her, starting from the scene at Rudolph's coffin, when she tells him to take her. And he says, "But you still don't love me." And that is the moment when she realizes that, wow, he must really love me. Because before then, he was just following her around, trying to get her to want to die. And that is the moment she realizes that, and then it kind of sinks in, and she does develop feelings for him. And then in the scene when Elisabeth and Franz Josef, when they are old and grey and beardy, well, Franz Josef is, not Elisabeth, although I wouldn't say no to a beardy Elisabeth, it would be hilarious. But in that scene, she says that there is someone else, someone who has been waiting for her forever. And the simple fact that he has waited for her feelings to develop, that he truly wanted her love, that opened her up to those feelings.
I mean, Death is such a stocky character, and it's like, this is the one version where Death does not quite creep me out as much as he does in the others, but that might just be me.
Yeah, okay, so this is interesting, because I think you're all right. This is also the feeling I get when I watch it, that they're really in love. And for me, I do like the Takarazuka productions, and like their take on Elisabeth, but my favorite version is the original, like Austrian or German production, in which it is not so much a romantic relationship. It's, for me, I like versions where, or my interpretation, that Death is more, he's maybe in love with Elisabeth as when she's alive, but he's mostly in love with her because she sort of embodies the, you know, the fall of the Habsburg and the end of the world as we know it, etc., etc. So this, like the lovey-dovey Takarazuka ending, it's never been my cup of tea. Well, it's nice. It's obviously nice, like romantic ending, yay. But I like, the German ending, or when she's like, yeah, she's dead, boom. And that's like super unromantic. Oh, she died. The end. So, but I guess that's why I like it, but as I said before, it's not my favorite, and I think this is probably why, because she's so in love with Elisabeth, and I sort of want Death to be like a creepier character, or just, you know, like generally colder, like emotionally cold, just cold is like my lead word for the character Death. Cheery stuff, I know. but yeah, I think she does a good Death. Because I think she's so cute. I don't know. I saw her in this OG show, Dream a Dream, a couple of years ago, and I haven't really seen anything. Well, I've seen like clip bits of shows, but not a whole show. I think this is probably the only full show with her that I've seen. But I saw her in this OG show, and I don't know why, but I was like, super excited to see her when she got on stage. I was like, oh, yay! Super into her performance. And she was great. So, I mean, she has something like charisma and stage presence. And it was awesome. And, well, I might not be her biggest fan, like, on the singing part, but she still rocks Death, like, she very intense stares and all that, so.
Can I ask, so who's your favorite cold Death?
I think it is. I think it's probably Asumirio. Really? For now, it's her. There's a few shows that I haven't watched in quite a while, so but I guess it's her. I think she's pretty cold.
Interesting. I've always thought of Zunko as like the coldest one. So
yeah, she is though. She is, but I'm gonna talk about her in the next episode. Yeah, I like her as well. So I think those two are my favorite productions. But they're like cold in different ways. I don't know, maybe we should... I digress. Sorry, this is not relevant.
Everyone look forward to it in the future.
Yes, stay tuned.
All right, shall we move on to our next character?
Yay!
Yay!
Yes! So the next character is Elisabeth, as played by Shiraki Ayaka. Well, we already know what I think, so Elin, what do you think?
Well, I think she's really sweet. She's like a super sweet Elisabeth. Well, at least when she's a kid and then she grows up and gets bitter, you know. But no, I think it's fun that we all like her so much. Yeah, like, as for singing, I think she's good, and I think she does this because it's like a complex role. You have to be, like, it's her whole life basically, right? You have to be sweet, innocent child, and then growing up, and I think she does all those parts of her life very, very well. And yeah, I think especially like I like her grown up as well, but in the childhood scenes, she comes across as really, really young, and I suppose she is as well. I don't know how old she was when she did this, but like really, really sweet and childlike, and I like that.
Yeah, and her child Elisabeth isn't as high-pitched as some other Elisabeths, so she's very nice to listen to as well. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much more to add. I mean, I totally agree. I think Shiaki Ayaka is one of those actresses that people don't hear about a lot unless they're a fan of the 90s. But I feel like, I mean, she wasn't really... She was only in the troupe for about 9 years, I think. I think she joined in like 88 and retired in 97. And I just feel like she was one of those really well-balanced musumeyaku. Like, she could sing. She could obviously dance because she could keep up with the Sajisaki. And I thought she was just an excellent actress. And she didn't strike me as like too cutesy. She kind of had more of a maturity, but she could do young Elisabeth really well too. So I think that shows she was really well balanced.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I loved her pairing with Mariko. So yeah, this and I still remember, like, everybody really loves Hanafusa Mari. And again, I'm snooping into other shows here, but like this production was bookended by two Hanafusa Mari Elisabeths, and to be honest, I didn't really care for Hanafusa Mari's Elisabeth, so in either of her productions. So for me, like, I don't know exactly what it was that Shiraki Ayaka did, but I really liked her Elisabeth. I thought the sound was really good, and her singing and her acting was good, and yeah.
Yeah, she was a very expressive Elisabeth, the best I've seen. I'm completely with you on the Hanafusa Mari. Hanafusa Mari is excellent, but Shiraki Ayaka... Where are my words? I think at its root, my reaction to this Elisabeth was, oh my gosh, she's so precious. She wears her emotions on her sleeve, and she also displays a lot of emotions which I feel do not exist in the other Elisabeths, as though Shiraki Ayaka's interpretation of this role is unlike any other. For example, in the scene when she gets to know Franz Josef, you can see her getting infatuated with him in a teenage girl way, and she's so enchanted by this boy who likes her, and that makes it so easy for me to understand why that love would fade, because teenage love can sometimes be more about the idea of love rather than the person, and it becomes obvious that she did not think this through properly. And Ayaka is just a very expressive actress, and her what's going on face in the Saigo no Dansu scene is fantastic. She's very there emotionally the entire time. You see what's going on in her head, and that she feels guilty about hurting people. For example, in the scene with Franz Josef where she makes the ultimatum, when he is outside her door and they are talking, and she feels so bad about how he is hurting, but she has been hurting for so long and he hasn't done anything to help her, that she has to protect herself despite wanting to make him happy. So yeah, I think she is just fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like I said, as I get older, I pay more attention to Franz Josef and Elisabeth's interactions together. And I feel like I have seen that in some of the more recent shows, but she was one of the ones who really took it and made it her own. Yeah.
And the last thing I want to mention about Shiraki Ayaka is that her fringe falls in a way that makes it look exactly like she has the longest eyebrows known to humankind. They go on and on. Just when she plays young Elisabeth, though.
Oh no. I never noticed that.
Well, you will never unsee it now. It will stay with you forever. Every time you see this show, all you're going to see are her eyebrows.
Amazing.
I will have to go
Everyone,
check that
please
out.
watch out for this.
But enough about eyebrows, or maybe not enough eyebrows, I'm not sure. Next up is Minoru Ko as Franz Josef.
So Noru is like, she was Prince Noru was her nickname when she was an actress, and like, I was never a huge fan of hers, and then like just recently I've started appreciating her more as an actress. And again, maybe it's that me getting older and liking Franz Josef, I don't know, but I enjoyed it. It was interesting reading the interview where they were talking about their characters, because I felt like Noru was Nibante in the troupe at the time, so she was still pretty young, and she was kind of feeling her way. And she talked about, it's really funny, she opens by talking about how like there's this focus on singing obviously in this show, and she was like, and I felt like it was being knocked into my head with a hammer every day, like sing, sing, sing. I was like, oh ouch, that sounds painful. And she also talked about like she was really, really intimidated at first about playing like this role in this show, and so like every day she was just like stressing herself out about making it, you know, becoming Franz Josef. And then one day she kind of looked over and she saw Asaji Saki working on her death, and she was like, oh wait, Mariko is making death her own death. Like, oh yeah, I can make this my Franz Josef. And it feels like that when she realized that, it kind of clicked. And she said after that she really enjoyed the rehearsals, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I have to make an admission here that like I tried to rewatch this morning and kept zoning out, so I didn't necessarily zone back in during Noru's scenes, but like I did like Two Boats in the Night, like I was watching that scene and I was like, oh, I love that scene. And Noru does have a really beautiful singing voice for an otokoyaku, I think. Like we were talking about how some of the vocalists in this show aren't the strongest, but I think Noru is a really good singer, and I think she did a great job making Franz Josef very human and very approachable. Like you felt for him. This wasn't like a Franz Josef that I wanted to strangle and be like, you know, grow a backbone. Like this was a Franz Josef I really felt for. So.
Yeah, I like him too, but I don't know. Not as Franz Josef seems to be used to doing everything the way Sophie wants in order to avoid trouble. I mean, in a way, I guess that's true for all of the Franz Josefs, but I really felt that he doesn't want the hassle of dealing with not doing things her way. So, for example, his reaction to her saying that he's going to get married is more of an, all right, I guess that's how it's going to be then, than anything else.
I love that scene. That's hilarious. It's the best reaction ever. But he resigns so easily. It's like, marriage? And then, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, so sad. He's not gonna pet him on the head. It's like, oh, that was a great scene.
Yeah. So, I mean, I found him to have his own idea and his own wishes, but that he chose not to go through the hassle of going against his mother. I mean, there's that scene with Elisabeth when he says, please understand, this is how it's going to be. It's wakatte kure, shikata ga nai nda. And he has this dejected voice, like he doesn't have the energy to fight, or that he knows that he isn't going to win against Sophie, and that there is no point in trying because he has tried before and he knows where it leads, and Elisabeth asking that of him makes him so tired and feel so useless. Another fantastic thing about Noru's Franz is the voice change as he grows older, and I feel like he becomes a man in the Watashi Dake ni that's just before the intermission. You know, the one where Mariko is death posing so hard. In that scene, he finally shakes off the totalitarian rule of his mother, and I think that that is reflected in Noru's voice. It's a fantabulous performance. But now I would like to know what Elin thinks about Shibuki Jun as Lukiani.
I really like her singing. So yay for that. And I think she's fun. Like I just keep looking at her hair. I think her hair is so I don't know. I don't really approve of the like ponytail she's got going on. So that is a bit distracting for me. But otherwise, it's a good performance. Like good singing, good acting. It doesn't like stand out, especially to me maybe. But I think it's it's a solid performance.
My impression of Shibuka Jun's Lucchini is that he seems sane. What? He's more similar to a neutral narrator, but still biting. And Jun constantly has a wink in the corner of her eye. She's a classy, flirty, in-control Lucchini with a swagger. And I really got the feeling that he was running the show, which I've never had to that extent before. It usually feels like Death is the one who is doing that, but here I feel that Lucchini is the one with the control. But then, of course, there is the, oh no, Lucchini went crazy anyway moment. Because Lucchini has to go crazy.
I agree with the thing you said about her feeling, it felt like a sane Lucchini. And when Death gives Lucchini the knife, I don't know if this is the case in all other productions, but I feel like it's always such a dramatic thing, you know, it's like drops the knife and Lucchini catches it and it's like this really big thing, and here it was really relaxed. I felt it was like, yeah, here's the knife, take it and, you know, do your thing. And that stood out for me, and I quite liked that. It was just, yeah, not so dramatic. That was nice.
I think it's the same in the Ichiromaki version as well. Death just passes Lucchini the knife without the drop. And I think that puts a bit more pressure on Lucchini to make something out of it. But yeah, I love the drop. But this is good too. Jen, what's your opinion of Shibuka Jun's Lucchini?
So, I think this is the first time I actually talked about Rika on the podcast. For anybody who doesn't know me, like, Rika's my one. True love. Like, totally obsessed. Yes. Sorry.
Or just a little.
So, Rika, I remember back when I watched this the first time, I was kind of disappointed. I agreed with Ellen, like, her hair is not the best. Her hair when she was in Takarazuka was kind of hit or miss. And I was kind of disappointed because she didn't have that, like, frenetic, crazy energy. I guess, like, Layla, you're thinking she seemed more in control. I was just like, she seemed kind of flat. Like, she didn't have the crazy going. And, like, when I was reading the interview, she was talking about, like, how she wanted her Lucchini to be very Italian, whatever that means, and very, like, hyper masculine. And I guess I can kind of see that. He was kind of a greasy, creepy kind of, I don't know, like, didn't appeal to me that much. But I had to laugh. Like, I was, because she's saying all that, and then she's like, and I feel like Lucchini's very animalistic. And Koike Sensei is like, animalistic? Like, what kind of animal? And Rika's like, well, I think he's like a Black Panther. And I died because that's exactly what I said about Ryu Masaki's Lucchini. I said she was like a Black Panther because she kind of slunk all over the stage. Like, and I didn't see that in Rika at all. So I was like, where's the Black Panther? I'm not seeing it. But all of that aside, I love Rika so much, and I think she had a lot of fun with the character. But I feel like she didn't really click, at least not in the recording that I saw. It didn't seem to really click until the second act. But I thought it's really interesting that you said when she got the knife, it didn't seem very dramatic, because, like, when I was watching it, and it might just be the copies that I have, or the lighting effects that they did when they did whatever they did with, like, but after she pricks her finger on the knife, there's almost like this red, smeary after image on the screen as she's like waving the knife around, and I'm like, what's going on here? This is really bizarre. Because they did do some weird video effects in the 90s, so I don't know if that was a video effect or just like my copy, but I was like, why is there red streaks on my screen? Anyway, I love Rika, but Lucchini's not my favorite of her roles.
I actually haven't seen any red on the screen in the scene when Death hands over the knife, but then I didn't see that the wig was green, so I'm clearly not reliable when it comes to stuff like this. Anyway, next we have Emmaoyu as Rudolph, and oh my god, this is the rawest Rudolph. I feel the emotion in all the movements: sadness, anger, frustration, impatience, trying to resist fate. And Rudolph looks terrified when Death says, "Shinitai no ka? Do you want to die?" As though, no, this is not at all what Rudolph wants. And it's like he tries to run, and it kind of hurts to watch, but Death is having his last dance, and when Death starts dancing, Death wins.
honestly, I don't remember a lot of Boon-chan's Rudolph. Which probably says something. Boon-chan's so cute though. She's always like such a cute actress. I did think it was interesting in the interview. She talked about how like she fell in love with the show when she was watching Yukigumi rehearse. Like I guess she was like going every day to watch rehearsals when Yukigumi was rehearsing for their production, and like the singing and the music staff was like, don't do that because you're gonna be learning the music by ear and you shouldn't be learning it by ear. You need to like read the music. And she's like, oh, too late. So I thought that was a cute anecdote.
I also quite like her as Rudolph, especially the I can't remember what it's called when she the song "Wenn ich dein Spiegel wär" is the German title, where she begs Elisabeth to like help him, and I think that was really heartbreaking for me because she looked like really pleading and like my life is shit, please help, pretty much, and like in a really good way, sad way. So. Yeah, I also liked her.
There is also a young Rudolph, played here by Tsukikage Hitomi, who has the most perfect little voice. She has this sweetness about her, but at the same time, she is a cheeky little boy. And the hope in her eyes when she looks at Elisabeth, willing her to come home to him, breaks my heart. And that sweet little lost boy, just an overwhelmingly sweet little Rudolph.
So, Gun-chan Tsukikage Hitomi was a musumeyaku, obviously, and she was like the only musumeyaku to play Little Rudolph until like 2007. And I don't know if you have talked about this in your other recording about Koike Sensei as a director.
Not a lot.
We haven't really talked about him on the podcast, I don't think, but like he does a lot of outside of Takarazuka shows, and that might influence how he does Takarazuka shows. I'm not sure, but he's actually pretty well known for actually making the actresses audition for the parts and choosing some people to play parts that fans might not agree with because they might not necessarily line up with where they are in the pecking order of the troupe. Like he actually auditions them based on the qualities that they have. Shock, gasp, and awe. And he talks about how he picked Gun-chan for this part because she had a very pure, like junsui and very innocent voice at the audition, so he thought she would make a really good young Rudolph. And I thought that was really interesting that the choices that you used to describe her, Layla, when you were saying that it was very sweet. I was like, yes, okay. So I guess Koike Sensei. But I also I was like dying laughing because I'm like reading the interview and Gun-chan's like, yes, I'm playing an otokoyaku role, and everybody in the group starts laughing, and Itsuki-san is like, no, you're playing a boy role, it's not an otokoyaku role. I was like, ouch.
Next up is Izumo Aya as Sophie, and Sophie jumping for joy at seeing her first grandchild is much cuteness. However, my impression of this Sophie is that she is a little shouty. She has to emphasize her position through her voice somehow, and she doesn't have the quiet, poisoned power which I really enjoy in Sakura Ichika's Sophie in the 2014 version. Instead, Izumo Aya's Sophie uses a bit of volume to get her way. Although, that being said, the tension between Sophie and Max, Elisabeth's father, in the parent song after the wedding ceremony, the tension between them is palpable, which is really good. And her singing in the "Oh God, why can't you be a proper lady" song shows a lot of emotion, and she growls parts of it, and it's just, yes, go Sophie.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you. She's a bit like shouty, but I quite like it. Actually, but I think she it's a very like over the top Sophie. I think she seems to be having a lot of fun playing this part, and so it's a bit over the top, and that sort of makes her character more fun than actually scary. I think I'm not really afraid of her, but I sort of laugh at her because she's funny. While being super aggressive, I think she's a super aggressive Sophie. Like I mentioned the Kekkon when she tells Franz Josef like, you're getting married, and I was like, that's the most baddest thing ever. It's like, marriage, oh no, sort of, and that was great. I loved that scene. But yeah, just super aggressive, and it's like my way or no way. And I don't get the feeling that I'm doing this because it's the best for my son. I'm just getting the feeling that she's doing it because it's the best for her, sort of. Yeah, I thought she was a lot of fun to watch. And amazing singing, of course.
Yeah, Izumo Aya, like, she went into Senka later on because of her singing. She's definitely a strong singer. Like, I feel like out of this, and she also played Sophie in the Sorogumi version in 1998, and I felt like this was my favorite of those two. Like, I preferred her more in this version. Just something about the acting, I don't know what it was, but she did get kind of typecast as she got older. Like, she had roles like Sophie, she played Carlotta and Phantom, like those loud, aggressive women who are kind of bullying the top star Musumeyaku, kind of. But I thought it was kind of interesting, and I don't know if you picked up on this. I feel like I did not pick up on this so much, but she said in the interview she was talking about it, and she said, like, she believed that Sophie actually, I mean, you got to remember that Sophie is Franz Josef's mother, but she's also Elisabeth's aunt. Like, Elisabeth's mother is Sophie's sister. And so Izumo Aya said, well, I believe that deep down Sophie really does love her niece. And I believe that Sophie must have gone through similar experiences when she married into the imperial family. So she's like, it's kind of tough love. Like, part of why Sophie pushes Elisabeth so much and is so strict with her in the very beginning is because she kind of understood and wanted to make sure she was tough enough to survive being in the imperial family. And I was like, ooh, that's an interesting theory. I'm not sure if that came through in the production, but that's what Taki said she was thinking when she was making the character.
Well, I don't know if I see that in this performance, but that makes a lot of sense considering how the real historical people Sophie and Elisabeth were. The way they are portrayed in the musical doesn't really match up with how they have been pictured in history.
Yeah,
And I've heard that Sophie actually really liked Elisabeth because of her free spirit and independence, which would make this reading of it, that Sophie was trying to teach her and being hard on her out of wanting to do what was best for her, more understandable.
Yeah. Two tough ladies in a different age, that's for sure.
So now we've got to the part where all of my notes are in all caps, which is my comments about Emma Naoki as Elisabeth's mother, Ludovica. But I will spare you, and instead of screaming incoherently into my microphone, I will just say that Emma Naoki is an amazing actress with amazing enunciation. It is pure perfection, and I could listen to her talking all day.
So, Junko's pretty much awesome. I feel like she's probably one of the strongest actresses in the review. She's an otokoyaku, but she also plays a lot of onnayaku, female roles. And I can't remember now if I think she started it. She started a kind of like company within Star Troop where they had to actually audition to get into the company. And it was like extra practice with acting. And then they put on like little plays for themselves and for Star Troop. It's like a whole world inside of Star Troop. And I think that shows like how much she loves acting and performing. And I think she is one of the strongest. I was really sad almost in a way to see her go into Senka because her ties to Hoshigumi are so strong. But I feel like in Senka she can like spread her knowledge among all the troops, which I guess is the purpose of Senka in a way. And yeah, that comes out here. In the interview, she talked a little bit about, at the time, she was still pretty young, because she joined, in the early 80s, I guess? I don't even remember now. And she talked about how she'd only played, like, one father role before, and this was her first mother role. And so she was saying how it was different playing a mother from playing a father, and how fathers have all these people to concentrate on, like friends and family, but mothers, like, for mothers, their daughters are almost an extension of them. So she's pushing her daughters so hard to get into these marriages because it is showing how successful she was at raising good daughters, kind of a thing. And I was like, that's so cool. Yeah, and she's just, yeah, Junko's awesome. I think she was really, really great. It's a minor character that a lot of people don't pay a huge amount of attention to, but Yeah, she brought a lot of life to it.
I checked up the years, and Junko was in Star Troop from 82 until 2012. 30 years, which is super impressive. Elin, what did you think of Emanaki as Ludwika? Were you blown away?
I don't know. No, not really. Sorry. But I was, as you said, the first time I watched the show, I was not prepared like for, wait, what? And also did not expect that, I guess. So that I was like pleasantly surprised.
You know, I think the kind of cool thing about this is a lot of the times when they put otokoyaku in onneyaku roles, it's either because the onneyaku role is very like sexy, dangerous, or it's because it's kind of a comedic role. And this wasn't either of those. Like, it was just a female role. So I think that's kind of cool.
What you said about Junko talking about how mothers want to see their daughters married off reminded me of Mrs. Bennet in Pride and Prejudice, which is another role which Emma Naoki excelled at. Anyway, moving on to the next character I want to comment on, Suzuna Saya's Madame Wolf. This is smexiness on legs. And that's all I have to say about that.
She's a twin, isn't she? I feel like her twin was in Moon Troop. Am I making that up?
Is it rare for twins or siblings to be in Zuka together?
There've been a bunch, actually. There've been a bunch. Yes, she was in Moon Troop. Suzuna Mio was in Moon Troop. Yep. Yeah. I have two more actresses I'd like to throw in if I can. Chiaki Shin, who played, and I'm going to mispronounce this, Schwarzenberg? Is that? So she... It's just random. The reason I'm bringing this up was I thought it was kind of interesting. She is... she's a pretty good singer, but she's talking in the interview. She's like, I was so happy to do this show because it was low and the key was low enough. Like, she's like, my natural key is actually quite low. She's like, this is the first time I've been able to sing in my natural key, and I was so happy. I thought that was really funny. I was like, it was low enough. It was her natural key. And she's an otokoyaku. Like, I'm like, what key have they been having her sing in? So that was one. And the other one is the Madeline in this show. The mermaid who dances on the table during the chicken or fish scene was Mayuzuki Ko. A chicken or fish. And Mayuzuki Ko is actually an otokoyaku. And I think that was like the only otokoyaku who played Madeline up until, again, like 2007. Or, you know, the newer versions that come through. Everybody before that was a musumeyaku. So I thought that was kind of cool. So she's a really good dancer. Check her out! Mayuzuki Ko! Alright, that was my plug.
Alright, so the last CN that I wanted to flail about is Ryo Akino as Windish.
Yes!
And Windish is a mentally ill woman who suffers from grandiose delusions and believes that she is Empress Elisabeth and accuses Elisabeth of lying. In this production, she is played by Akko, or Ryo Akino, and oh my god, she is so great, I can't even. Her eyes cross, and it's like she's having some kind of fit when Elisabeth talks to her.
It's a tough role because the singing is tough. Plus, it's like really, really tough acting. Yeah.
Akko is amazing. Watch this production of Elisabeth. It is so worth it. This is hands down one of the best Windishes I have ever seen.
Did you see the 2009 version? Okay, because
I've seen it, but it's been a while.
That was another one where the Windish character like really struck me. It was Kagetsu Miyako in that one, and I actually I don't usually write random fan letters to other actresses, but I did for her because her Windish was so amazing that I was just like, oh my god, you're amazing. So I feel like that's a role that there aren't a lot of really, really good musumeyaku roles, and that's definitely one of them. Should we talk about some later top stars? In the Revolutionaries who pop up, we've got it's Kozuki Wataru and Ayaki Nao are both. They're Elmer and Jura, and yeah, they're super cute, being angry revolutionaries, being manipulated by death. And they both have like big roles in the Shinjin Koen of that performance. And then, of course, later Kozuki Wataru goes on and plays Lukini in another version, and Ayaki now plays Death in another version. So, gotta bring them
A
up.
lot of the future stars have played these roles. You are destined for greatness. Let's see if you can start a revolution.
Actually, I was thinking about that because I was looking at it, and it was like, in the beginning, those roles used to go to, like, the actresses who were Shinko leads, but I've noticed, like, the last round through of Elisabeths, those roles have gone more, well, for a while they went to upperclassmen, and now I guess they're back to Star Trek, to Otokoyaku. I don't know. It seems to go back and forth. And again, it's Koike-sensei doing his auditioning, I'm sure.
Are we ready to talk about our favourite scenes?
Yeah, let's do it.
Care to start us off?
Oh no. Great. Let's see. So I talked a little bit about the one where they're at the very end after Elisabeth dies. I love that scene. I think the emotion is really amazing, and I feel like that's a lot of the deaths are very strong and confident, and I feel like in this scene Mariko is almost like Elisabeth has broken Death's heart so many times. Death's just kind of in shock. And I feel like Elisabeth's kind of singing to him and is kind of like reassuring him that, yes, I'm yours, finally, we're together. And just her like very sweet, almost like reassuring singing, and Death's just like the expression on Mariko's face. I love that scene. Yeah. Trying to remember. I'm looking back at my notes in my blog to see what I liked. 10 years ago, what did I like? Yeah, I think you mentioned this one when, right after Rudolph's funeral, when Elisabeth's like, fine, take me, I don't have anything left to live for, and Death's like, yeah, death is not an escape. It was really beautiful. I love that scene.
All the drama. But very, very beautiful, I agree.
Yes. Yeah.
I really liked the Shinabai scene in this production. You know, when Death is dressed up as a doctor and gives Elisabeth the photograph of Franz cheating on her. I mean, the Shinabai still made me laugh because I find it to be such a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, just, oh, how about you die? I mean, it's silly. But this Shinabai was more subtle, with a quiet, suppressed glee of tasting victory. Although I am slightly disappointed by the lack of climbing onto furniture and stripping. There was not enough of that. But the acting was really good. Another scene that I really liked was the Yamiga Hirogaru scene with Death and Rudolph. Mariko's death is totally relaxed during the dance. It's as though dancing is not an effort to her at all. Amazing.
Yes. I wish there were more dance scenes in this show.
Yeah, the dancing is so good. I wouldn't have minded more of that. And then there is this scene with Franz Josef and Elisabeth at Rudolph's coffin, and Franz Josef is so beautiful and so heartbreaking. Equally, Elisabeth singing at Rudolph's coffin is so raw. There is this certain kind of grief of a parent who loses their child, because your children are meant to outlive you. They are supposed to be your future, not your past. And I feel like they really managed to capture that heart-wrenching, soul-crushing grief, which is different from any other kind of grief. And they did that really well. Elin, what were your favourite scenes?
I mentioned it, I think, before, but I also really liked the scene where Franz Josef goes to Elisabeth's door, like, Elisabeth Akitakura, like, please open the door, and, you know, when they have this fight and she gives him the ultimatum, and I thought both Franz and Elisabeth were really good in this scene. I think it was really heartbreaking. I think especially Franz Josef. I think I really liked him in this scene. It's super sad. And I also liked Aitoshi no Rondo. And I don't really know, it's hard to explain, but I think Shiraki Ayaka had some really good expressions in this. Her reactions to what was going on was really nice. And I especially liked just, when she arrives and that's welcome to the world of the dead. And she goes in for the kiss of death. Like, she does this in a super non-dramatical way. It's like, this is everyday work routine, I mean, which is probably the case for death, but the way she goes in for that kiss, I really like that. So watch out for that when you're watching this production.
Now I'm excited and want to actually watch it again while paying attention.
It's like super komakai things, yeah, like really specific things, but that really stayed with me, that almost kiss.
I need to do one of those like Clockwork Orange things and just like pin my eyelids back next time. I think I've been conditioned now. It's like, oh, this is a scene without Lucchini. I'm just gonna fall asleep now. It's terrible.
And now, get ready for the finale. How about you go first, Elin?
Yeah, I really like it. I like it. And my favorite number, I think, is there's a white number with death, and in the case with all the musumiyaku around, and everyone's wearing white, or at least like off-white dresses, and it's set to, it's a slow number to Watashi Dake ni, and I think it's Izumo Aya and another musumiyaku just like singing it, like no lyrics.
Akiso no Mio.
Okay.
Akiso no Mio is another musumiyaku with a gorgeous voice.
Yeah, it is a really nice version. Like that song is also used for the end credits of the DVD, and it is really lovely. Love that arrangement of that song, and just the whole number is super nice. And this goes like totally against my ideal cold death, because it's super fluffy and romantic. But since this is not part of the actual show, I'm totally fine with it, and it's amazing. And I don't think this number has been done in another review after that. I'm not sure this, but I don't think it has, and I really want them to pick this number up again because it's so nice. And then there's the Otokyaku dance, of course, which is what it is. Awesome. In any version, love it so much.
And the duet dance. The duet dance is like...
amazing.
Okay, can we talk about the ending of the duet dance? Because, okay, so they do their whole dance, which is beautiful, and then, in the end of the duet dance, when they come and pose in the middle of the ginkyo, and so Mariko just comes trotting down, and she does this, like, jump, like, half the way down the ginkyo to her position in the middle, and then Ayaka comes sailing down, and they do this, like, weird flip thing. I don't know, I'm not a dancer. I don't have the vocabulary for it. But they, like, flip it in 3 different positions in about a half a second, and it's gorgeous. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's really nice. And the song is Saigo no Dansu, right? In a very dramatic arrangement.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I really love the duet dance. It's great.
My input on the pair dance is that I love their red outfits. They look fantastic. And I think that I've seen some gifs of Markun and Midion doing those same flips at the end of the pair dance in the current Sora production. I seem to remember that anyway. I do, however, have to say that I am hearing something in the background during parts of the finale, and... are those cowbells? What is that noise? I feel like I'm hearing cowbells in the Otokyaku dance. And when they're walking down the stairs, what is this? Help! I just keep thinking of Christopher Walken saying, I gotta have more cowbell. I have no idea what's going on. To be honest, I think I heard some cowbells at the end of the Ichiro Beth as well. Is anyone else hearing this? Am I having psychosomatic cowbell? God.
We need to think of a word to describe hearing cowbells. And we definitely need to... We need to link to the SNL skit so people know what you're talking about by more cowbells.
Yeah.
People who don't listen to this podcast will be looking at the links and they'll be like, why is SNL on here?
They will be so confused. God. But I'm so confused. Help me. Am I hearing cowbells? Seriously. I need to know. But, imaginary cowbells or not, one thing that is true is that the Cardinal Archbishop Raucher is a mushroom, and I love it.
It's Manaka, right? It's, Manaka Hikaru? Is that who plays?
Just checking it up.
I think so. The Cardinal, right?
Yeah, you're right. It's Manaka Hikaru. Yeah.
She's hilarious. Oh my god. She's like one of the best comedians. Like, I mean, that doesn't come out as much in this role, but that might be why she chose that wig.
Ah. It is beautiful. Simply beautiful. Yep, mushroom.
So, I have one more comment. Yeah, I don't know if this is relevant or not, but it was when I was reading this round table discussion, like they did a little intro and they were talking about Elisabeth and what it is, because back then not everybody knew yet. And one of the things they mentioned was that, like, they're like, oh, and by the way, there's a Hungarian production that started in 1996, and it's partially based on the Takarazuka version that we've just put out. And I was like, what? Like, I'd never heard of the influence before. Like, they didn't go into any details, except I think, like, some of the original Takarazuka characters, like Elmer and Jura, might be in it. I don't know. So, if anybody's familiar with the Hungarian production and wants to comment on that, do you see any Takarazuka influence in it? Let us know, because I would really like to know.
Eileen, any final comments?
No. Oh, well. Yeah, just this another really, like, tiny thing, which I really like. At the end, like, the actual finale, like, super ending, you know, when they're out on this, what do you call it? Ginkyo?
Yeah.
I never remember the word,
The
sorry.
Silver Bridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds so great in English. Silver Bridge. They're out on the Silver Bridge. And, you know, they're taking final bows, and the top stars and the Nibantes, they greet each other, you know, and Asadisaki kisses Shiraka Ayaka's hand, and I thought that was really nice. I don't know if this happens occasionally, but I can't remember seeing anyone, like, having seen anyone else do that. Just, like, for the, yeah, and that was really
He's
sweet.
such a gentleman. This is why Mariko is, like, the best top star ever.
My final thoughts are that I need to find myself another newer copy of this show so I can see the full glory of Mariko's wig.
That's like your mind couldn't, like, handle the green wig. You're like, no, I'm not seeing this.
Block it out.
If I get it, I'll wake up the next morning full of regrets and with an empty DVD case next to me. Thank you so much for joining us today for the second episode of our Elisabeth Review Corner series. Next time we'll talk about the Soragumi production from 1998 with Shizuki Asato and Hanafusa Mari. See you then, bye!
Bye-bye.
Bye!
A huge thank you to the Arcanum String Quartet for their gorgeous arrangement of Sumire no Hana Saku Koro.